Hey all, Dr. Rob here. Just wanted a good video on YouTube to thoroughly document my experience with my recent purchase of a Chibson Randy Rhoads Les Paul guitar. I requested originally an exact duplicate of the guitar to the Gibson Rhoads guitar. What I want to do is communicate to you my experience with the transaction, how it was received initially, what I did to it, and then some final comments and conclusions at the end. So put together a little something to run through it. So to keep things concise and to the point, let's get started. The transaction. Okay, the guitar I purchased off of GH Gate by a seller, AC __ DC, 2 underscores, for about $300. The order was placed on August 21st, 2021. I actually received photos of the guitar October the 4th, I guess, after they got done building it. We went through 5 different rounds of guitar proposals where the seller would provide actual photos and I would give feedback. I was very disappointed when the first photos came through, as they differed significantly from the listing. And also, as I said before, I was looking for an exact copy or as close as possible. I believe they just really just used the Gibson photos and not actual photos of their product, or at least not until you put down the money and they start submitting proposals for guitars. Items I complained about that did not match the listing photos initially were as follows. The relicking on the original ones that they proposed did not look good. The rhythm and treble selector was black, not gold. The rhythm treble plate was black, not gold. So the selector was black, not gold. The plate was black, not gold. The rear covers were black, not gold, or brass like Randy's. The knobs were black, not gold. Also, the words where it says they had Randy Rhoads engraved, it was blank. It was just a black pick guard, and there was no engraving. The potentiometers should have pointers, so I pointed that out. And then the bridge, as always, a lot of the guitars coming out of China was a Epiphone style with the slotted screws, and of course, as in the listing, it said it would be ABR1, which is a small pin, and not the Epiphone type, which was the original proposal. The seller communicated they could only provide the following. They could provide the small pin ABR1 bridge, the Randy Rhoads engraved pickguard, and gold speed knobs. However, they said they could not provide anything additional, which sort of sucked. It wasn't to the original listing that they had posted, but okay, so we'll see what happens. I'm just looking for a tribute guitar, preferably exact duplicate, but if not, at least a tribute. So October the 20th, I received a second round of photos. I rejected those for various reasons. On October 28th, I received a third round of photos, and I rejected those. On the 29th, I communicated the relicking was starting to look good, but I complained about the following: the black speed knob still, the Epiphone bridge still, the Gibson split diamond logo actually looked worse in the later ones that they submitted. The Gibson logo, it looked too big and bold, and both it and the split diamonds were actually too far forward if you looked from an original one. And both should have been lower. The fretboard appeared not ebony, but more like a rosewood. It was a light brown, and I wanted it jet black, just like my originals are. And it said in the listing it would be an ebony fretboard. The control cavity looked abused, so the routing around it, actually there was material where it looked like they had misrouted. That didn't look good. And then not reliced and drilled wrong. And then the tuners did not appear to even be straight on the back of it. So after I gave him that feedback, after the third round, November the 2nd, a fourth guitar was chosen, and on 11/3, I complained did not look very good, and between the three proposals, gave directions, thought what was best, and gave them the directions of what I was looking for. He communicated another would be chosen. On the 4th, looks like the day later, the seller communicated the fifth proposal, and I communicated, although it was not perfect, maybe it wasn't to what the original listing was, I would accept it, and requested him to ship it immediately. On the 5th, he started arrangements to have that shipped out, and on November the 7th, provided tracking. The package was shipped air freight, so I was wondering, hey, is it going to be another month before it comes in? But what he did is air shape it, and I received it on the 13th of November, so it only took about a week, which is great. As I requested a Chinese exact duplicate of the Gibson and received the item not as listed, I tried to work with the seller to either get an exact copy or at least a partial refund because it wasn't as is listed. So selling something that wasn't being offered or originally in the listing for what I had bought, but he communicated he could not supply an exact copy. Should have told me that up front. And no refund was even suggested nor given, even though I had proposed some appropriate solutions. So it was either send it back to China and then possibly get another one, or keep as is, which is what I ended up doing after 3 months. So how I received it. The guitar was received in good condition. Wasn't broke or anything. It contained, it was taped up in the styrofoam box, as many of them on the internet you've seen. There was no case. I didn't order one, but no case. It was in the styrofoam along with the truss rod, wrench for this type of guitar, and a cheap cord was also included. The guitar looked nice. The one I picked out, the relicing to the body and to the back of the guitar, it all looked good. There was actually relicing to the tailpiece, the original covers that were in there, and the original tuners that were in there. So that's the reason why I got it. I don't have a relic guitar. I wanted something like Randy's, preferably exact, but at least a tribute to him, right? So I accepted it, and these are the comments I communicated to the seller once I received this final guitar, the fifth one. Number one, the guitar was very light. It weighed 8 pounds and 2.1 ounces. Extremely light. Although it was posted, you know, it was relic. It was supposed to be ABR 1 bridge. It was supposed to be heavy. It was a light guitar. And from my original 72 Les Paul Customs, you can see here, and the Cherry Burst and the Natural, which actually looks close to Randy's. They're very heavy. They weigh 9.75 to almost 11 pounds, 10.9 pounds. They should be, out of the Norland area, 1972-75, they should be heavy as fuck. So for it to be light guitar, I don't know why it's light. Is it Chinese wood? I don't think it's hollow or routed out or anything, but I don't know why it's so light. But it was one of the things I really wanted in a jet black fretboard, which this does look good. But anyways, it was extremely light. The pots and the knobs, they fit a little funky on the original one. The guitar utilized an Epiphone bridge when it first came, again with the slotted standard screwdriver. It's Epiphone style, and not to the small pin, which he said he could provide, but I didn't see any of them. The potentiometers were small. They were the 16 millimeter ones, not like the CTS, the Alphas, where they're 24 millimeters and that are in real Gibsons. and they didn't include the braided cloth with the braided shielding cable as a Gibson was. It was a cheap PVC style wiring. The binding dots, if you can see on the side, you can see them in there, and I'll post a bunch of pictures and data. They're not like the original. They are not sitting right. I know the originals aren't even sitting in the center, a little down, but some of these are completely off of the binding. So it's sitting pretty shitty, as well as size differences from the original. The dots a little bit different. Various bubbles. There's a drip here. There's a lot of little spots where air was in. Some other drips. So I pointed all those out, which aren't typical to Gibson and Gibson quality. So when you get a Chinese guitar, it might look good, especially far away. The quality is not very good. The body to neck intersection, where was that at? Right here. If you can see it on there, I don't know. I'll post the pictures though. But right in here, you can see those dimples in there where they really didn't fill it before they shot it and sanded it down. So that was a problem. Drips in the paint. Also the control cavities. The control cavities are not standard size. If you get a Gibson cover and try to put them on here, they do not fit. So I don't know why they didn't route those to standard. So that was a problem also. Some of the fret inlays, they look fairly good, but if you look really close, there can be additional gaps where they filled it in with glue and whatnot. Again, not Gibson quality. The truss rod, of course, if you take the cover off, a real Gibson will have a nut on the end. And this one you have to stick something down into the truss cavity. The original nut was like a plastic nut, I guess. I don't know what the hell it was made out of, but that was a problem. The truss rod covers. So the truss rod covers, or whatever you call them, these black plates, they sat really shitty on the original one, and I replaced the pickups, which we'll get into later, and they were sitting funky. I got some new ones from Stu Mac, so those were replaced, but yeah, that wasn't really sitting out that well, just like the original knobs were not. What else? None of the covers. So the covers in the back, the poker chip toggle cover, and the knob, none of it was brass, so all that was replaced, which we'll get to, but they weren't brass or gold as advertised. The Randy Rhoads pickguard, although it does say Randy Rhoads on it, it is not engraved. It's just on the top surface, where actually I got this one a while back for my 72, and this one's actually engraved. So that was a problem. The knobs, the original knobs that were on those 16 millimeter pots, they were the wrong color. They weren't clear. They were like foggy. They were shitty. That was a problem. The serial number on the back, so it does say Randy Rhoads, and this one it's a 035. But as you can see, it's a little bit shifted over to the right. If you're looking at it like this, so not centered. The frets will have no nibs, which is a big giveaway, especially for the Chinese guitars. And I did look at the Randy Rhoads Gibson one, and they actually have the nibs on it. I think his actually did too when I read his book, and I seen actual pictures of it. I think he still had the nibs on it, so I don't know if he had it refretted. I don't think he did. The split diamond. So the split diamond, the Gibson logo is on there. It's got the dot. So for a Norland era, it should not have the dot on top. That's incorrect. And it's a little more bold in the logo. And although the split diamond looks good, it's smaller when you compare it to an original. like this. Let's see if you guys can see it on there. I don't know, you have to tilt it a little bit. But yeah, so font is bigger, bolder, a little thinner, and it looks like the split diamond starts the rate, but it's smaller, so it should go up higher. So that's what the deal is in there. I went further to, I actually measured all of these guitars. I measured the Gibson against two real Gibson 1972 to 75 Les Paul customs. So same area as Randy's. Another Chibson Les Paul you might be able to see over here. The red one that a friend got me. And this one's a 2008 Gibson Les Paul Studio, original real one. And compared them all to the specs. I measured them, you know, from body from here to here. I measured them from here to here. I measured them from here to here. I measured the headstock, the width here and here, and the length of the headstock. So I'll post that data online also. I measured the guitar in 7 different spots. I'm posting the breakdown in the video, I already said that. But in summary, the guitars are not correct. Although this looks like a Gibson Les Paul custom, it's not. It's smaller, it's thinner, and the headstock is smaller also, lengthwise. So these are probably the reasons why some of the weight's gone, right? Because some of the wood isn't there. So although the peg head angle is correct, I did measure it at 14 degrees. That's correct. The nut originally was a little wider. The guitar body, as I said, is smaller and thinner. And then the headstock, although it looks close, it's smaller in the E dimension, which you'll see when I post it in the video. So what I did, I never even played the original Chinese pickups. Chinese Chibsons are notorious for poor, cheap electronics. I probably should have kept at least the covers, because at least they were relic, or actually they looked abused the way they were carved in there rather than just polished away, but I threw them in the garbage. I replaced the pickups in this with error correct type ones. These are from Tone Planet. These are MHS3s, which stand for Memphis Historical Specification. So they use Alnico 3 magnets in them. They run, in the bridge runs about 7.45, which is correct to the area. I measured the front at 6.9K DCR. A little light, but pretty close. It should be around 7, just over 7.5 on the bridge, which is what we're seeing. So they are error correct right magnets, and they have that throaty sound on them. They sound great. Since the posts, the original posts, the inserts actually were M8 by 1.25. I replaced them with a multi-threaded fastener from Philadelphia Luthier. So what it does is it screws into the 8 by 1.25, but then it has the ABR1 thin small pin on it. So then you can just put the bridge on. They thread and convert correctly and appropriately, but a couple issues I must point out. They were sloppy. There was a lot of slop in them. Maybe because of the Chinese inserts, maybe, I don't know. But there was a lot of slop in them, and then to the ABR bridge there was additional slop. So each one showed about 20 to 30 thousandths or 40 to 60 thousandths stacked up. So when you have that kind of tolerance, you're going to have a hard time setting it up, intonating it, getting it right.
Hey Rob, listen man, this new bridge and this new setup with these different studs, if you look closely, I don't know if this is going to intonate properly. See how much play there is? I'd say 25 to 30 thousandths worth of play. That's just in the top of the studs alone, let alone this play right here. So on top of the 30 of the bridge, and at least 30 here, there's 60 thousandths worth of play in this thing. I don't know if this thing is ever going to intonate properly. It's your call what you want me to do. We can put the original bridge back in and use it, or go with this one and hope for the best. Let me know, brother. Bye.
But to compensate the luthier that I had do this, used nylon tape at my direction. I've done it before to tighten up the threads, and it ended up working. Also, what he ended up doing was putting brass sleeves inside of the ABR1 bridge, very thin. So when it fits in, it basically shrunk the whole diameter, and it worked. Another thing, it worked, but if you want to and you want to do better, you can also pull the inserts out. Faber and some other folks have that. You can pull the inserts out, insert a different insert in there that has the shaft on there, the small pin, or what you can do is pull the inserts, stick in a wooden plug, re-drill it, and put in the small pin screw in there. And that's how the originals are. They're screwed directly into the wood, just so everybody knows. So let me see where I left off. So you can do that. And the other thing that you can do is get an ABR1H bridge I seen from Faber USA. And with their system, with their screws, and with their bridge, it was specifically designed to take out the slop. And so when you put it on there, it doesn't move. The pins don't move. It's very tight. So you might want to go that way if you go this route with a Chinese guitar. I replaced the Chibson tuners with real Shalers. They're M6. They're 3x3 with a 12.1 ratio, gold, of course. Gibson utilized a couple different ones on the Rhoads guitar that they produced about 10 years ago. One was stamped on the back Gibson, these D-type, and the other one had S for Shaler. In Stephen Rosen and Andrew Klein's book, Randy Rhoads, with actual pictures of Randy's guitar. If you look on the back, his have the S for Shaler, and instead of these newer ones say made in Germany, they say made in W Germany, which I caught, which made sense because the wall was still divided country back then. So that was really cool to see that and point that out. So, and now you guys know it. I replaced the bridge with an actual ABR1 small pin bridge. It came with virgin saddles, so they hadn't been cut yet. So the luthier cut them to the right profile and the right depth to 74 spec. I replaced the pots, the caps, and the shielded wire with CTS 500K-A long shaft pots, paper and oil caps, and utilizing 50 style wiring, which was in Randy's or in the Gibson reissue, along with real shielded cloth wire. I tried the short shaft pots originally, and there wasn't enough threads that were exposed, so I had to set them off and use the longer ones, set them off by the nut to get the proper height, and then I used those. The potholes needed to be drilled. They were a little small from the 16 mil pots. So I drilled those out myself, and then I have the pointers on there, which weren't included in the original guitar, but should be in the era correct guitars. I replaced the plastic nut or whatever the hell they had on there with a bone nut. I'm not sure it's on Randy's, but I think it's probably bone. It was virgin. It was uncut, so the luthier had to cut those down to the proper depth for 74 spec and the proper depth. So we did that also. I replaced the poker chip toggle switch with a brass one. I replaced the knobs with the proper gold ones in the proper color to attach to a 24 millimeter pots. I replaced the tailpiece. On the Chinese, they have really small holes. Obviously, you look at it and say that's not a Gibson. These are wider holes in them. And this one I had an extra one out of a 70, 72, 75 era correct lying around. So this is actually era correct tailpiece I put on there. A little bit of slop in the screws for the tailpiece. Maybe again Chinese, the inserts. Again, a little Teflon tape to tighten everything up. So that's what was used. Since the guitar did not come with them, I purchased and installed the gold pointers. I already said that on the controls. I picked up long shaft pots, the caps, the wiring, everything from Stu Mack. And part of that from Tubes and More Antique Tube Supply. I'll post all that, the breakdown where I had it. I purchased real brass control plates for here and for the back. Was lucky enough to find them real brass, so they are correct. I must point out that they were not routed to the Gibson standard from the Chinese, of course, I already said that. So the luthier had to grind down one of the toggle cavities, one of these plates. He had to just shave it off so it fit in. I think it was this one. And this one, like I said, the routing was wrong, so you had to increase the routing around there to get it to fit in nicely. And it does now, so that's all squared away, but again, Chinese quality. I replaced the strap locks, researched, made sure what Randy used. He used Shaler's. This is my first time using Shaler's. I usually use Dunlops. Very cool, click on, very nice. And I was able to get his faux snakeskin strap even, so I have something very similar to what he had. The plastic pickup trims were funky. We already talked about those, so I used the ones from Stu Mac. However, the threads into the plates and whatnot, whatever the Chinese threading was, it wasn't the same, so I had to use a newer one from Stu Mac on that. Finally, as with all Chibsons, they lack detail to the fret leveling and crowning. They play okay. There's some buzzing things going on, and that's huge to any guitar. If you want it to play well, the neck has to be set right. You have to have level frets. They have to be crowned. The sharp edges have to be removed. They were a little sharp when I got it, and polished and everything, and done properly to 74 spec, which it is now. So final thoughts. The guitar looks, sounds, and plays good, right? After all the work I did. It's actually closer, I believe, to Randy's original guitar in that the color is more correct to his real guitar. I believe that Gibson made the ones that they released, 200 or whatever. It's a very deep yellow, as everybody has seen it and knows, and I believe they did that probably to differentiate it, and so no one confused it with the real thing in Randy's guitar and tried to pawn it off as his. In Rosin's book again, Randy's color was spot on to this. And in certain light, you do get that dark yellow. I've actually got it with this. But as you can see, it should be aged. It shouldn't be, that yellow. And you can see me moving it in the light. Depends if it's yellow light. It'll give the impression of that deep yellow, but it's not. It's a off-white. I don't know what color you'd call it, but yeah, it should be a lot lighter than the one Gibson released. Although my guitar looks, plays, and sounds nice, it's not a clone or a copy of the real thing, and for a myriad of reasons I identified throughout this video. So if people think, how can China do this, and think, hey, they're easy to mistake from a real Gibson, they are not. If you know what to look for, it's very simple to tell from the real thing. From far away, they just look like a Gibson, but up close, various things you can look at internal, the electronics, look at things. Actually I didn't comment on, but I'll post it. The spec of the original Gibson Rhoads was like 0.98 or something at the first fret. At the 12th it was like 0.8. This thing is like 1 point some inches. This thing is a monster. It's much meatier and thicker profile neck than Gibson and probably Randy's also. I did measure my real 72, 75s. So they're actually 72s, but they're all the same in the area. And I'll post what a real Gibson should look like, what the profile should be, what the dimensions should be like. So there's no confusing it. It says Gibson on it. It probably should be using the logo even if it's bigger and whatnot. I actually wanted a clone, but there's no confusing it. That's just ridiculous. The quality's totally different. Am I happy with it? I'm happy with it in the fact that it's a great tribute guitar. So I have Randy's complete rig, as you guys know. If you don't know, you'll see it soon, including his pedal board. And it's a great tribute to to his entire rig. It's the closest thing you're going to get besides having the real thing, which only one exists. So for that reason, it sounds, it plays good after all the work in it and expense that went into it, but very disappointed, not closer to the original spec as it was originally advertised. I'm disappointed in the weight. A lot of people like the lighter weight. I would actually prefer the heavier weight and believe that tone is in the weight in the original wood at the time, which now is banned, and you can't get it anymore, and that's why you can't get that exact tone. If you're looking for a guitar, do not get a Gibson reissue, in my opinion, because you can't get the wood that they had back in the day. You're better off getting an old Gibson. Is it worth it? Although I am one to buy local and support the home team and do not like to support China, I like to support the USA, it's where I'm from. For this instance, it was in the fact that instead of paying over $10,000 for a Gibson Rhoads VOS, I paid about $1,100 for this. And I can play with it and not worry about it or breaking or hurting and banging it up. If something happens to it or I smash it, the most I'm going to be out is the $300 for the guitar, right? Take all the hardware, take the electronics, take all the goodies out of it, the extra $800, whatever. Pull out the parts, you can put it in something else. So it's a $300 guitar. So from that standpoint, yeah, it was worth it in this instant and for me because of that. Is any of the other Chibsons worth it? I don't think so. If it's not a tribute or it's not a collector or it's not something that you'd have the money for, you're never going to have the money for, even if you saved up for, and you can get it for a fraction of the cost, and know that it's a tribute, it's not exact, it's worth it. But if you're just, hey, I can't afford a Gibson Les Paul, but I want to get a Chibson, then instead of $1,000 to $1,100, $10,000 difference, it might be $300. You might be satisfied with a $300 guitar, or putting in the extra money, the $700 or $800 delta. You might be okay with it, but the gap shrinks. And I don't think just getting a guitar just to have the Gibson logo on it that looks, sounds, plays similar, but isn't the same. You can't get rid of it. You're not supposed to sell it. It's got sub-quality issues compared to a real Gibson. I would say, again, no, it's not worth it. And in most any other cases, other than these specialized guitars, and for me, it was worth it. So I hope this video, some of the people out there will be enjoyed it. I'll post the parts list and the breakdown at the end of the video, along with photos, how I received it, all the stuff I did into it, the different dimensions on it. So hopefully this will be a very thorough video that everybody enjoys, and for educational purposes, so people can make educated decisions on if to go forward or not. But if they're thinking, hey, I'm going to get a Rhoads, Les Paul, Gibson, VOS guitar out of China, exactly like the thing, no, you're full of shit. You're not getting that. It's not that. So you have to understand that. But I hope it's educational for you guys to make an educated decision. You're better off if you just want a Les Paul. You don't have the money right now. You're not going to be comfortable with a $300 guitar initially you get from those guys from China. And you know you're going to be putting at least $800 in, which gets you to the $1,100 mark. There's a lot of $700 or $800 guitars out there, Epiphones, Schecter, there's other things, but even an Epiphone would be better quality than you would be getting out of China. And also, with the issues, you're not really supposed to sell it, this, that, or the other. You're better off just saving the money over time and someday getting a real Les Paul. But hope everybody enjoyed the video, and long live Randy Rhoads. We miss you. We miss you and love you. This year is going to mark 40 years that he'll be gone from us. So this is an original. These are the 72s. That's the 2008 studio model. That's another Chibson. And I'll just put this up to the screen as what a real Gibson should look like. No eye in the headstock. These have the mirrors on it. They don't have the original, the brass. And really quick before I end the video, this is the other 72 I have. And this one I think has has a real PAF in it. It has the what is it, the 59 or 59 plus pickup in it. And the Natural actually has the Super 75s in it, and I hardly recommend them. Amazing guitar. So I hope this was informative. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.